Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Well, I hope you're all ready because this video is probably going to ruffle some feathers, and that's okay. It's quite okay to ruffle feathers from time to time. Today's video is why bother with AKs anymore? Where's this going? Am I going to bash AKs? Maybe, maybe not. I guess you'll have to see here, but we are going to get into this discussion. And, look, I like AKs. I think they're fantastic, and I do enjoy shooting them. But we're going to sort of dive into some reasons why, maybe they've kind of gone the way of the dodo. Maybe they haven't. We'll get into this. And I want to hear everybody's opinions as well in the comment section below. I know you guys can be dropping some doozies. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at Sonoran Desert Institute for supporting today's video. If you're looking for a career in gunsmithing, they're definitely your go-to source of people. They got some awesome programs, wonderful curriculum, excellent instructors. You can learn how to fly drones. You can learn about the gun business. You can learn how to work on guns. Tons of different things that they teach. So check them out, Sonoran Desert Institute, and you can jumpstart your career in the gun world by checking them out. So tell them I sent you. Big thanks to them for supporting this. They've been longtime support of the channel. SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute. All right, this one is a 74-ish, I guess you could call it. This started life as a Russian-American Armory ISFET, I think it's IZ-103. If I think, actually, let me look at that model number. I don't know if they actually stamped that on here or not, but basically it's a pencil barrel 545 Sega. And I did a full 922R conversion on it. This is an RS Regulate mount that is on here. Scott over there, RS Regulate, makes a fantastic mounting system. Definitely something you should check out. This is an Aimpoint Comp M5 2 MOA red dot that's on here. Kind of a pricey optic to put on this gun, but I tell you what, it's fantastic. This is a slotted 4-end from Carolina Shooter Supply. All right, a Tapco 2-chamber brake. I did cut back and thread this barrel. Actually, I don't think I had to cut it back. I think I just had to remove the little sleeve. It came with like a pinned sleeve that covers the threads for them to import these when they were doing these. So I put a 2-chamber Tapco brake on here. This is a Polish barrel stock mechanism off of a Polish barrel service rifle. This is a Molot grip, Russian Molot grip. And then we have, it's actually some Bulgarian magazines that I painted to match this gun. This is Duracoat. I sprayed this just with some Duracoat using some burlap and a bunch of foliage from the backyard over here. Tapco G2 trigger unit, and I changed a few things over to meet American parts count, which I think 922R is a bunch of bogus bullcrap anyway, but I digress. This is my 74 and I love it. I had 2 or 3 of these. I have gotten rid of a few, but this ugly green one I've kept because, man, it is just a fantastic gun to shoot. It's very accurate. It's very capable. Before I put the RS Regulate mount on here with the red dot, the low red dot mount, this is a Aimpoint specific red dot mounting plate that gets the optic nice and low. Like it almost even co-witnesses with the sights. All right, so super low. Before I put that particular optic on this gun, I shot this rifle with 69 grain ammo out to 700 yards with a pencil barrel. And on a 18 by 24, now I know that's a fairly large plate, but on an 18 by 24 inch square plate, I was able to put probably half the mag on a plate at 750 yards with an optic, with a magnified optic. Hey, for a pencil barrel, that's not too bad on the performance side, okay? So to say that AKs are inaccurate or incapable is definitely not true. They are capable. I tend to find the 545 variant to be much more accurate and capable for long-range shooting than the 7.62 by 39. I mean, obviously, the 7.62 by 39 is kind of a ballistic marshmallow that sort of, I don't know, falls out of the air at 550 meters, which is not a bad thing. It is a good intermediate, close-range rifle that is really intended for that type of engagement, couple of 100 meters, close in jungle fighting, that sort of thing, street fighting, kind of close in work, maybe 300 meters tops. Like not really meant to be a much longer range cartridge than that when you look at 7.62 by 39. And look, 7.62 by 39 is a great cartridge. I love it. I still have a Vepr 7.62 by 39 AK that it's fantastic. I did a full conversion on it. It is wonderful. It is a really great gun. And I still have a M92 PAP SBR that I did a long time ago. And that's a fun one in 7.62 by 39 because you can put 75 round drums in that bad boy, and it's just fun to play with. But anyway, I get back to the topic of, are AKs something that, why do we even bother with AKs anymore? Right? I mean, many tests have been done over the years on the effectiveness of an AR-15, not only in the accuracy department, but its ability to handle dust and dirt and mud and debris, right? And torture testing, ARs have consistently came out on top, even over the AK, in torture testing. All of my meltdown videos that I have done, the ARs always outlast the AKs by a respectable margin. Now, we did have one Vepr in 5.45. I think it went 900 and some odd rounds, which is pretty close to the round count we get out of a 5.56 AR. So for what it's worth, the gun ran fairly well before it started to gunk up too bad. And what it was all that lacquer from the primers just began to clog up the bolt face of the gun. And that's what eventually stopped it, was all the lacquer primer compound clogging up the bolt. But other than that, the gun probably would have kept running fairly well. Now, we have a POF 416 that went, I want to think the better part of 1,700 rounds, and we have yet to get any standard or even heavy-ish barrel AK to run that long. Now, I know the meltdowns are not really a real-world type of scenario, but it's just interesting to see, like, hey, compared to the mud testing and the torture testing that some people have done over the years, and then compared to some of my meltdown videos, the ARs do consistently outperform the AK, and ARs are more accurate. All right. And this is not, I'm not trying to take a dump on AKs. I love AKs. I think they're fantastic, but I kind of feel like what I love about an AK is the same thing I love about SKS or Mosin Nagant or Mauser. Like, I've almost kind of think about AKs as being like this outdated surplus type of technology. This is like older technology. Now, okay, you look at the AK-12 and some of the more modern AKs like the Ventores sniper rifles and 9x39. Of course, the Dragunov rifles, which are like a very modernized version of the AK. Even the PSLs, which are essentially just a big AK, a grown-up AK that is literally just a bigger AK. Those guns are cool, and they do fill a certain niche, and they are still in use today. The PSL and the SVD and the Ventores, and those types of things. And the AK-12, I mean, obviously AKs are still in use for very good reason. I mean, right now in case you haven't noticed, there's this war going on in Ukraine. I mean, Russia and Ukraine are shooting at each other with AKs every single day, and they continue to hold the line. So I'm not saying that AKs as a service rifle is not effective, not popular or anything like that. I'm just saying, in today's day and age, and this is primarily more of a plea to American shooters really than it is anyone else. Why would an American shooter want an AK over an AR? Are there any legitimate reasons why, other than it just being cool and different and unique? I mean, I do like AKs and their uniqueness. Like, I think they are kind of cool. They're kind of rad. They have that kind of devil may care look to them that's just, you're not going to get out of an AR. Like, it's just kind of a different kind of sexiness, so hey, just for aesthetic purposes and just collection factor and just being cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm always going to have an AK or two laying around, if anything, just so I have a way to launch 7.62 by 39 and 5.45 if I happen to need to have need to do that. But is there a reason? Well, companies like PSA are doing a great job of making a lot of different AK variants available for the first time in a long time at very affordable prices. Early on, you used to be able to get the Century imports, which were, some of them were pretty good and some of them were not. Like some of the legitimate Kujir stuff coming in from Romania, like I've got a PSL that's a 1993 or 90, I think a 1994 produced Kujir produced Arsenal, with the real deal Kujir Arsenal produced PSL from Romania. All right. Yeah. Century brought that gun in. They imported it. They didn't make that gun. They imported that gun. Right. So is that to say that Century hasn't always offered some cool stuff? They have, but I would say some of the AK stuff has been a little hit or miss. I know there for a while, the Wasser 10s were coming in with some real soft barrels, not with really good heat treating. Some of the AKs that have been brought in the country and built off of parts kits have suffered from, let's just say, unless someone like Jim Fuller gets a hold of it and does, a complete build, or maybe Chase over at Definitive Arms or someone like that who's really well versed in AKs, you're not going to really get as good of an AK as some, like, obviously it's not a Jim Fuller build. You know what I mean? A guy like Jim Fuller, he's the guru of AKs, and he gives classes on how to build them properly. And there's a lot of different things spec-wise on these guns that you have to be familiar with in order to build them at a good quality level that can, let's just say, be as good of a quality level as you would go on a production line in Russia and pick up the 10,000th AK from that production run and go, all right, 10,000 AKs in. All right, we kind of got things rolling. Things are looking good. No crushed rivets. Everything's looking straight. Trunnions are nice and tight. Everything's looking good. The receivers aren't bent. The barrels aren't bent. The gas block isn't bent. Nothing is skewed. The sights are straight. To actually build AKs properly requires you to produce them. It requires them to be manufactured. It's not a one-off gun that you can just make one and get it right. Now, a guy like Jim Fuller can take a crank parts kit from Russia and make the most awesome crank you've ever put your hands on, but he's a master at building AKs. What I'm saying is, for AKs are meant to be manufactured in bulk, in a process, like a line of people, everyone with a job, and like it's a gun that's meant to be manufactured and disposable, right? Changing a barrel on an AK is not an easy thing to do, right? Changing out a major part like a rear trunnion or changing out a broken receiver or something like that is not necessarily a very easy or user serviceable thing to do, not generally, versus an AR. If you break something on your AR, it's as simple as just, you probably have the part in your bin, you can change it out in 5 minutes, right? If you get a barrel that has a ring in it because a round got stuck, or you have some obstruction in your barrel and you ruined your AR barrel, you can swap an AR barrel in 20 minutes and check the headspace and go about your day. In 20 or 30 minutes, you can have a new AR barrel. All right. Not so much with the AK. I mean, it's a nightmare. So in a lot of ways, these guns are kind of disposable. When something goes drastically wrong, it's cheaper for an army or military, whoever, remember, at that type of level, it's cheaper for the military to say, here, conscript, here's a new gun, and then throw the other one in the parts bin. Or throw it away, or sell it off. It's just not worth fixing something major on something like this when they're so cheap to make at that mass manufactured level. All right, it's a disposable gun in a lot of ways. Now, there's probably people out there that are going to have a lot to say to me or argue with me about, I know Rob over at AK Operators Union. Look, I'm going to acknowledge Rob right now. Okay, Rob is the kind of guy. He takes AKs out and he does magic with them. Now he can take, I remember one time he built a Tabuk. All right. The Tabuk was a rifle that Iraq made, sort of like their little, let's just say, domestic modification of the AK in an effort to make sort of a designated marksman rifle out of a standard AK. They changed a few things around, added an optic, maybe a little bit better stock, did maybe a little bit of pressure relief on some components of the handguard to improve barrel harmonics, a little bit of accurizing work, right? The Tabuk was generally not a bad rifle. Rob built a Tabuk of his own, or I think he had, I don't know if someone built it or if he did it himself, but he made a Tabuk clone and made a video about shooting this thing. And he was just getting wicked, crazy good accuracy out of this rifle. Now, is the accuracy that Rob gets out of his AKs indicative of what everyone is going to get out of any AK they put their hands on? Probably not, because Rob is very meticulous in the rounds he chooses, the optics and the mounts. He takes the platform seriously in a way that really allows him to show you what an AK can really do. Now, if you go through it as meticulously as he does and you choose your components carefully and you treat the gun as the platform it is, then absolutely, you can wring a lot of good accuracy potential out of an AK. And of course, Rob built his whole channel around AKs, so I'm not taking a dump on AKs. Again, I ask, for U.S. shooters, other than the collectible, let's just say the collectability or the historical factor or the cool factor, is there a reason for someone to own an AK over an AR in 2025? I can't definitively say the answer is yes unless you just want to have something like that. Now look, admittedly, this is a really wicked cool gun. I love it. I'm not saying I don't love this rifle. I do, right? I love 545 by 39. I think it's a fantastic cartridge. In fact, I used to have a Smith & Wesson M&P upper in 545 that I used to use on my machine gun lower to burn up very, very cheap 545 ammo in my machine gun rather than shooting up expensive 556 ammo. At one point, I think the price on 545 ammo was down to like 4.5 cents, which was cheaper than 22 or the same price as 22. Now, of course, 7.6 ball is totally not that price anymore. I mean, it's like 400, 450 bucks a can now. But I remember when you could buy 7.6 for 80, 90 bucks for a can of, 1,130 rounds. So that's a very good bargain to be able to take an AK out and get a lot of trigger time in. So there was a time when having an AK was a much more attractive option to an AR. But now that the ammo cost is about the same, it's like now you have to decide, well, is there really a benefit to owning an AK anymore if the ammo is not, half the price of 5.56? What's the charm of having it unless you just need a platform that can launch 5.45 by 39 or a platform that can launch 7.62 by 39? All right, maybe in some future scenario, it might be important to have a gun that can shoot those rounds, right? I'm not going to say what that scenario may be, but let's just say maybe you have concern that you need to be able to digest some of the ammo you may find in the wild. Okay, well, if you don't have an AK, you have no ability to use that ammo. That ammo is no good to you. So I think that for the prepper mindset kind of person, or the person who just has a good, strong firearms collection but wants to round themselves out for longevity, I think it is important to have a 5.45 AK and a 7.62 by 39 AK. I would say the 7.62 by 39 AKs with the shorter barrels, like a little 10.5 inch or 12.5 inch barrel, those are actually a lot more fun to shoot and more compact, and the barrels are more rigid. Therefore, I believe they're a lot more accurate than the longer barrel versions. That's just my opinion. But I think in the 5.45, like a 14.5 is a nice barrel length. PSA, again, I go back to PSA. PSA has made it so affordable to own an AK, and not just affordable, but you get like a ton of great quality out of an AK for not a lot of money. I mean, $1,000 will get you a heck of a lot of an AK from PSA, and it just didn't used to be that way, right? I mean, we're talking, when Wasser 10s were $399, they were $400. Who cares if it wasn't that great? It was $400. So back when, Mosin Nagants were selling for $129, I mean, what's $400 for an AK? I mean, holy crap, that's cheap, right? That's incredibly cheap when they were $399. But that's not the case anymore. Even Wasser 10s now are $750, I think, $800. So they've gone up almost double in price of what they used to be early on. In my mind, if I'm going to spend $800 on a Wasser, you better believe I'm going to fork over another $200 or $300 and buy a very well-equipped PSA, like maybe a 14.5 with a pin and welded barrel that I can cut back and make an SBR out of or something like that. I think they do have some crinks now with pin and welded barrels. We're talking, a 10.5 inch barrel that's pin and welded, and you can get the full Monty folding rifle stock and everything, and all you got to do is form it and unpin it, and boom, you got a crink for $1,200? Holy crap. I mean, look, I love Jim Fuller to death, and I think he is a master AK builder, but there's a huge price difference in a Jim Fuller build and a crink and a PSA build. Now, there's also a big difference in quality. Now, look, a Jim Fuller build is a Jim Fuller build. I mean, that is what it is. That's a Ferrari of AKs. But the point is a person who wants a crink, are they going to fork out $3 or $4 grand to have a parts kit built by Jim Fuller? It may even be more than that now. The parts kits themselves might be $4,000. Then, Mr. Fuller will have to get a certain amount of labor to build that thing out for you. Now it's going to be one awesome AK. But is the average consumer going to spend $6,000 or $7,000 on a finely built, custom built, Russian parts kit crink built by a master gunsmith, or are they just going to fork over $1,200 or $1,400 and have a turnkey crink from PSA? I mean, it's not a Russian parts kit, but dang if it's not a fairly good gun set up fairly well. Now, the ones that PSA offers are only in 5.56 right now, to my understanding. Now, it'd be cool to have something like that in 5.45. For me, I'm the kind of person, I'd rather spend the money and find a parts kit in 5.45 and have a crink built in the actual 5.45 by 39 caliber. That's just me. I mean, 5.56 is cool. Yes, the ammo is more available. I personally would like to see it in 5.45. PSA may make the gun in 5.45. I don't know. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just saying that companies like PSA have made the AK very approachable and affordable. And they've also done some really unique things like the AKV, which is a 9mm version of the AK, okay? And it's kind of their own take. I mean, yes, it's AK-ish and it's AK-based, but it takes Scorpion mags, and it's sort of like their own take, which is kind of unique. So for some of you that maybe you don't care anything about 5.45 or 7.62 by 39, you might want a PCC and you want something kind of unique and cool. So AKV might be something that can scratch the AK itch, but it's still in a useful caliber that you're actually going to shoot and use. And it takes readily available and inexpensive CZ Scorpion mags. So just keep that in the back of your mind. There's a lot of things to consider. You know, is the AK something that we should even care about in 2025? I think there's still a place for it. Obviously, it's still in use in a lot of places all around the world. It still has its fans. I'm not trying to pull you away from the AK. I'm just saying that for American shooters, if you're wanting performance, an AR is certainly going to be a better tool for performance. If you want cool factor and, you know, just the nostalgia and the collectability factor, I feel like AKs probably solve that a little better. I mean, there's nothing cooler than an AK. I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is a really cool looking gun. It's just not, you know, an AR is so industrial and, you know what I mean? Like, the AR is like industrial killing. And the AK is kind of like, I don't know, like peasants hammered it together in the fires of Mordor. I don't know. It just has that utilitarian feel. Like the people that built it don't care if you live or die, and it's up to you to decide if you're going to survive or not. Like, I don't know. It just has that utilitarian, rough tool feel, like a tool with a bunch of handling, like a tool that has a bunch of ugly burrs and nasty marks on it, and they don't care how pretty it is. It just got to work, you know. And the AR is like this industrial redheaded stepchild that is like so perfect that, you know, each part can just go on any gun, and it's like this true like amalgamation of just random perfection, which is, it has its own quality to it. So the two are very different, I think, in their methodology, the way people think of them, the application that someone might have for a gun like this versus an AR. I think for American shooters, AR is a more useful tool, and the AK is just something that, I don't know, in today's world, it has its place, but maybe amongst its fans. All right. I'm a fan. I love the AK, and I hope you do too. Thanks so much. Many more videos on the way. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Are you an AK fan? Is there a use for AK in 2025 amongst shooters? The answer is yes, but I want to know what you think. Hit me down in the comment section below. Let me know. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon. Comrade. Just kidding.